Hello. Hello, everybody. Just let you folks filter in, and I'm going to look for my co-host and bring her on. Hmm, there you are. Okay, promote to panelist. Okay. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I will start by telling you I cannot see any of you, so don't worry. I hope you can see me. And there's no chat here, but can someone just type in the Q&A? If you look down at the bottom, there's a Q&A and probably I'm the only one who'll be able to read it, but can you just let me know that you can see me and hear me all right? Hi, Laura. Hi, Rowana. Okay, perfect. Oh, thank you, everybody. And hi, Amy. Wait, let
Hello.
me put us in a gallery view. Okay. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Karen Leitner. I'm a physician and I'm a coach for women doctors. And I'm so happy to be here tonight with my good friend, Dr. Amy Fogelman, talking to you about something that I think is really interesting and a really wonderful opportunity that I also think is valuable in particular because it's a skill set that a lot of us maybe don't have yet or have just started to pursue. And it's a way for us to diversify our income streams or make additional money. And just taking a step back, for those of you who do know me, you know that my primary mission in my work is to empower and help women doctors be happier. And a lot of the reasons we're unhappy has to do with, I mean, let's not even get started, like the way healthcare is and the EMR and the moral injury of healthcare and all those things, which are really important to address. But having more money, I will not say that having more money makes you happier. For sure. I don't think we can say that, but it does provide you more opportunity. It can allow you to have more impact in the things you care about. It can allow you to have more autonomy and more freedom with regard to not having all your eggs in one basket at one institution or one clinic. It can help you have more independence. It can help you just have something else interesting for your brain to think about if you've been in medicine for a long time and what you're doing now is great, but you'd like to try something new. So for all of these reasons, I'm so excited to bring Amy on. Amy and I happen to be friends from before either of us became, well, you were already an entrepreneur. I wasn't yet, but you can tell this story. And I really believe in the work that she does and in her as a human being. I forgot to mention that I'm an affiliate for the program that she sells, and I don't do that often, hardly ever actually. But it felt important to me because I think for many of you, enabling you to have access to learn how to do this work and add to your financial stability and security and options is valuable. So that's the why, in addition to just finding it really interesting to talk about people doing interesting things. So without further ado, well, briefly, what I'm just going to tell you, this is how tonight's going to go. I don't have any notes. I'm going to introduce Amy. We're going to talk a little bit about how she even got started in this work. We're going to talk about what it's like to work as an expert medical witness. We are going to learn about an opportunity to work with her if it's something that you'd like to do for yourself. And then we're just going to open up to Q&A that you will type because there's no chat. You don't have to come on and talk to us unless you really want to. We could probably find a way to do that. And that's how the evening is going to go. And I'm already seeing there's like a bazillion things in the Q&A, but it's all of you just saying that you can see us and you can hear us. Did I miss anything, Amy?
No, I think that's great. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for having me here and for talking to Karen's people. I really appreciate it. So thank you. So Karen and I, she alluded to this, but we are both in the Boston area. And early on in the pandemic, we got involved in advocacy regarding masking and physicians feeling like they didn't have autonomy when they were practicing, and like a lack of safety in the workplace. And so we were both involved in this group, the COVID-19 Action Coalition of Massachusetts. I had never had any experience working in a nonprofit, and neither did Karen. And
Hmm.
we used like a lot of skills that we kind of figured out as we were going along during the pandemic. one of the skills that I remember, because we were both in the media piece somehow, the communications, we got that. And I remember, Karen, you did like one of our first interviews, and you were like so excited because it was Martha B. Binger, and you
Oh
felt like
yeah.
you were speaking to a celebrity, and
She's
you
like
thought
a
you could.
local celebrity. She
So you
still
kept
messages
on.
me sometimes for medical advice. She'll be like, "Do you
That's
know
really
anyone?" I know, I know.
that's really cool.
Well, can I just say one other little thing about it, which is like, I just think there's a parallel. During that time of the pandemic, I was sort of like a contracted employer for employee at a telehealth kind of company. I didn't have a boss or anyone looking at what I was doing, and neither did you. And that's
Right,
kind of why we had the liberty
right.
to like speak truth to power and be like, hospitals are not protecting physicians and physicians are dying. And there were so many people in the state who didn't feel like they could speak out because their institutions were like going to retaliate. And I just think it's interesting because that's still kind of the position I'm in a little bit is like I have my Instagram and I'm just like, we have to speak about how medicine is so messed up, right? And I don't have to worry about my boss or anyone censoring me. So it is kind of empowering. And it's just interesting how sometimes there are these themes in our lives. I'm not I'm not sure how the Kovac work ties into the work you do now, but I'm pretty sure like there's some of those skills, right? Like
Oh,
you really
definitely. I mean, I think just being able to, figure things out and advocate. I think that is what it does. But the other thing was that I can talk a little bit about, my story, but and maybe I should talk a little bit about my story. So like I before I went to medical school, like I always in the back of my mind was like, should I go to law school? My favorite movie growing up was this really random one. It was called True Believer. I'm sure you did not see it. It was this sort of like murder mystery with this attorney that, you know, found out that it got the innocent person out of prison. And I felt like, that's so important. And so there's always this part of me that was interested in the law. My husband is an attorney. He does not do medical malpractice, which I'll talk about that in a while. But in
but he's an
20,
employment attorney and he's
he
fantastic.
does. He does
That's
employment attorney. He also does personal injury, but he does a lot of
okay.
employment attorney with physicians,
Mm,
for employees, not like for
mm,
he doesn't represent the hospitals. He represents the doctors.
mhm.
But what I was going to say is, so in 2018, I started after a decade and a half being a primary care doctor. Um, I started this company where I match attorneys to expert witnesses across the country. And so I was doing that during the pandemic, which really slowed down because cases slowed down. But Karen was the one that was like, why don't you teach other people how to do this? So she gave me the idea to even be teaching this at all. So I do have
I
Karen to
tell
thank for
lots of people what to do, and most of them don't listen to me, Amy. But yeah, I just see opportunity and possibility. And the irony is, I totally forgot that I even did that
That's
until we
really
were
funny.
talking about having this call. But I love that. I feel
So
so honored to have been
yeah,
part of this journey for you.
totally. But I think just to share with you guys what I who are potentially interested in being thinking about like what is it about expert work that I like, I will say, you know, Karen touched on the money, being paid for all of your time is such a wonderful blessing after years of primary care where, you barely scrape by, you do so many things outside of the amount of time that you're just in the office with the patient. It is so nice that every single minute that you're spending working on this is being paid and actually at a very high hourly rate. So that is lovely. It's just like music to my ears. But I also really like it can be done for the most part, like in your pajamas, on the weekends, on nights. It can be done like at soccer games. It can be done like when you're traveling. It's very flexible. And it's also just, I think, really interesting. And that's why it goes back to that true believer. There's that part of me that was always like a little interested in the legal profession, it's nice to be able to be using my medical brain and my medical knowledge and using it in a different way. So that's what I like about it.
Yeah, and I just think it's helpful to remember that for a lot of us, especially me, I remember before I left primary care, there was a nurse or someone talking about how she had worked in like rheumatology for a while, and then she was going to do the ER, and then she's going to do the ICU. And I was like, oh, they're so lucky that they can work in so many different environments. But physicians, all we can do is this one thing. And that was so wrong, right? So, like, you're talking about one tiny little sliver. And of course, I'm not suggesting everyone leave medicine. You don't have to leave to do this work. Actually, if you fully leave,
You,
you can't do this
you
work. That
can't.
was a
Yeah.
question I got on Facebook. So it sounds like you have to be clinically active to be able to be an expert medical witness. But there's, if this is the first thing you've ever seriously considered of doing but beyond your role, just realize that there's so many things where you can use your knowledge from medicine and be useful to someone else. There's lots of options when you start to look for them, and it doesn't have to be like stay in the same primary care office until you die, like everyone else who's really old and is still there. Like, it's not like that.
100%.
Yeah.
And also the solution isn't, oh, I'm interested in the law, I should go to law school.
Yeah.
Because I get a lot of people like emailing me about that. And actually, because doctors, we love degrees. And so I think there's something very like comforting about that. Um, and no, don't go to law school. In fact,
Well,
I
some of you can go
find,
to law school, but you don't
but
have to
not
go
for,
to law
well,
school,
no, to do expert work,
not for expert
you
witness.
shouldn't go to law school.
Yeah.
In fact, like attorneys don't want, they oftentimes will turn down experts who are attorneys because they feel that juries don't trust
Mm,
attorneys.
mm,
So if you're going to law school for your own reason,
mhm,
by all means, but don't do it if you want to do this work. You don't need to or shouldn't.
mhm. I feel
Um,
like I got you off track.
no, not at all. I think the other thing that like a lot of us are thinking, I think it's really maybe the elephant in the room is like the medical malpractice piece. That's so much of what we think of as physicians. And that's definitely a part of the medical expert work that we'll do, and we'll talk about that. But there's so many different types of cases. And so medical malpractice is just a sliver of it. And so just because you're doing expert work does not mean that is a medical malpractice case. And that's another common misconception that I think people have.
Do you ever feel like when you're doing this work, it feels bad inside because you feel like you're doing something that goes against your principles and your
Oh,
integrity?
it's a good question. I wasn't going to like bring that up like right on the at the
But I'm
top
just
at
like,
the
what are
top.
people wondering? Well, let's get to the dirt.
No, I
Mm.
don't.
Mhm.
My feeling of this has completely evolved over the years. So when I first started, I said, I don't ever talk to me about a plaintiff case, and we'll
Oh, we
talk
don't know what
about,
that is.
well,
Okay.
yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that after, but like, I only want to talk, would only want to be involved in a case that defended the doctor. So don't talk to me about the other thing. And in fact, when my husband graduated from law school, I told him, I was like, don't you dare do anything with medical malpractice or I'll divorce you. Like, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to think about it. And so he didn't. And I would like give dirty looks to the attorneys that did medical malpractice, like at the the yearly gala or whatever. My feelings have completely evolved, and I
Mhm.
will tell you why. Now, listen, if you just want to do defense work, you can. You're you're going to be limiting the number of cases that you're going to do. Um, it's fine. You also have to be a little careful because the other side may be able to 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 show. I mean, listen, we're biased for the doctor anyway because we're doctors. And so the attorney is going to be able to paint you even more as being biased. And so you're going to have to be careful about how you answer that. Now, if you're in a very, very, very small field, there are some fields, uh, placental pathologist. I think there's like 150 placental pathologists in the country. And so because of that, they may not want to have to go to a conference, and they know they're going to see the other
Oh,
149
yeah.
placental pathologists at that conference.
Right.
And so they just might say, you know what, I don't have the backbone to be able to like drinking my cup of coffee next to Dr. Jones. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to do that. And that's fine, and that's a perfectly legitimate reason.
But what you're
But the
saying is the attorney could say, "Dr. Leitner only defends doctors. She's not impartial. She will never point at a doctor who did something wrong, so you can't trust what she's saying."
Correct.
Yeah.
And I will say also that you are actually missing out on an opportunity, because now that the way that I look at cases is that I just look at the medical facts and I answer the the legal question, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But the legal question is the legal question. Doesn't matter which side hired me. If the answer
Mm,
is still the answer. So
mhm,
if it's the doctor, I'll say like, look, he either messed up or he didn't. And if
mhm,
it's the other side, I'll either say, like, the doctor messed up or they didn't. And it
mm,
will be the same answer. And
mm,
so a lot of times, what I will be telling the attorney is like, look, it was a really sad thing that happened, and I'm sorry that that happened to the patient, but there was no medical malpractice here. And this is
mm,
why. And
mm,
because you work with the attorneys and they trust you and you're a straight shooter and you're coming from that place of truth, they trust you. And then a lot of times the good attorneys will, and people who are just getting started are not the good attorneys, but like the real good attorneys, they're not going to waste time and money putting a case into suit that's not going to be successful. So they'll
mm,
just drop it. So actually, by being involved in the plaintiff cases, a lot of the time what you're doing is stopping cases from being filed. And
mm,
so sometimes when I reach out to experts saying, "Hey, do you want to look at this case?"
mm,
They'll like knee-jerk reaction be like, "How dare you?" It's like this very emotional response, like, "How
mm,
dare you even think of representing the
mhm,
devil?" And like I don't
mhm,
take it personally, but it's
mhm,
like I think to myself, like, number one, like, I'm sorry that they had a bad experience, right? But then number two, I think like they're missing the point, because if there is no medical malpractice, like they can tell the attorney that.
mhm. Yeah, it's so
And
counterintuitive.
if there is medical malpractice. So, um, and if something really bad was done and a patient was harmed, that is how our country makes patients whole.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I mean, if
so
something bad happened to us, like, when we are on the other side suddenly and we know our family member is not getting good care or whatever, it's like there has to be a process for that too.
And a lot of times it's not the doctor's fault, it's systemic issues. And the only way that those things can change is money. It's
Mm,
like all of a sudden, oh, you know, this hospital system had to spend $10 million because they were double booking their surgeries. Well, all of a
mm,
sudden they're not double
mm,
booking their surgeries.
mm.
So sometimes that is what changes those things.
Awesome. Okay. So we
So
talked about
let's go back to like the basics, because we threw out some like big words there. I just like wanted I use that word plaintiff.
can you
But
really
before we
quickly
get
first
there,
just talk
yeah,
about the dinner table? I really like that too.
yeah.
Like, how did you even decide to like, the dinner table
Oh,
conversations with your husband and how you even realized you could do it? Because most
yeah.
people hear about medical expert witnesses and they think like, well, you have to have a specialty, right? As a generalist, how could you even, right? And like, that's just
Karen,
not,
that's such a good good
yeah.
point. Like I've been doing this over the years for years, because my husband would bring home cases, particularly with like personal injury cases. Like, oh, I this client came in today and she said that she got her foot caught in an elevator and she has, XYZ, things. And I would be like, that doesn't sound right. Like, I think that person's lying to you. And, you don't realize how much knowledge that we have just, from our specialties. And so, And so, no, you don't need to be super specialized in order to do this at all. So no.
And just to like reinforce that one more time, because we're not saying like just anyone can do this and it's so easy and like it's a skill you have to learn how to develop. But it's also, I think people have the misimpression that like, I need to be the expert. I need to have written the textbook. I need to know everything about urologic gynecology, right? And it's like, it's what you taught me is that your job is to teach simply the
Yeah.
medical. That's your job,
Your
basically.
your
So,
job is to teach the judge and jury. Like,
yeah.
and it's something, if it's like a lay language that everybody knows, they don't need an expert. But
Mhm.
it's an expert witness is somebody who has specialized knowledge or training or skill or experience. We have all of those things, right? We don't just have the knowledge, we have the knowledge and the skill and the training and the expertise.
Right.
And so like we're even more, you know, ready for this than just the average Joe Schmo.
I'm hearing the harmonica being played loudly downstairs. Is that bothering you? Okay, let me
I
just ask
don't hear it at
people
all,
to be
but it
quiet.
must be driving you bonkers.
Well, and the only reason I wanted to say that is because it didn't occur to me, I think about what's going to get in someone's way from thinking about doing this work, but thinking, oh, I'm not expert enough. Like I have to be, an old white man who's written textbooks. Like, let's not let imposter thinking, which we all have, all of us, that's not something that we want to bring into this arena. The word expert, it has its own meaning to each of us, but really as physicians, we are all experts. We are. We just are compared to lay people, compared to non-medical people. And that's what expertise means in this. And then being able to look at the case with a certain legal approach, which you're going to talk
Absolutely. And so I love that. It's absolutely true. And some attorneys do want to work with the white-haired people that they've used for years. But I think more and more what people are looking for are really people that can speak just in a regular way that is very approachable. Because those are the people who are going to be trusted by the jury.
All right. There's just a couple questions in the Q&A, which is great. We're just going to keep those. Just put your questions in there and we'll definitely get to all of them after we're finished with the next bits of our talk. So thanks for the engagement. And I can help you read those to you or however we want to manage it when we get there, Amy.
Awesome.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I'll say, like, to just talk about like a day in the expert's life. Let's kind of hit that a little bit. That
Hmm.
may be a little bit of what some of the questions are. I don't know. But basically, you can control the number of cases that you have. So, I've had students who've taken my course who are full-time clinicians, but they wanted to be able to take on like a certain number of cases. So they're able to say no to cases, but can still do, 2 to 3 cases per year. And they're able to make, I had a student who within his first 3 months as a cardiologist made $20,000 in his first case. And then if you want to be even more busy, I have a student who is a pediatrician. She was one of my first, I think she was either the first or the second student of my course. But she is so busy that she has um, gotten rid of one of her days of clinic, and she just does expert reviews during those days because she's so busy. So, and she does a lot of things to make herself very busy that are things that you need to do proactively. It's not that she just sits back and the
Like
cases come to
marketing.
her.
She markets.
Marketing,
Yeah.
marketing, but not like putting her name on a billboard, like actually thoughtful ways of making attorneys know about her so that
How does
they
she know
try
how
to
to do
her.
that?
She wrote an op-ed and she in a newspaper, and that's how she got known. So it was a very, very clever way to do it.
Hmm.
Um, and that is one of the things that I recommend in my course. So I actually, in my course, I have this whole marketing um, part. And if you follow the steps, you'll get cases.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool.
So the way that normally it works is an attorney or somebody from their office will reach out to you for an initial call, and you do that either on the phone or on Zoom. And then they are kind of feeling you out to see if they want to hire you. I would just give you some tips that you don't, this is like an interview, so you want to be friendly to them, but you don't want to just, sometimes attorneys can do that if they're trying to kind of sniff out a free opinion. So you don't want to give your an opinion entirely for free during that first call, because
Mhm.
you may never hear back from them and they may
Mhm.
just say like, thank you, and they'll hire somebody else. Or
Mm.
but then what you would do is you would send them your fee schedule. And so fees are generally for a physician. So board certified docs are usually what is required. So that's $500 per hour if you're a non subspecialist. So internal medicine, $500 an hour, depending a bit on your expert experience and where you're located in the country. You can start to increase those rates a little bit, like New York, Boston, California, like LA, maybe like a little bit higher rates.
Mm.
But I've seen, some rates for subspecialists, 750 an hour to start. And again, that's for reviewing records, and that's for everything. So you're paying your
Just like we get paid in primary care, just like $5
exactly,
an hour just to
exactly,
do our charts
exactly.
and our new patient reviews, and
Right.
yeah, seems
So
ex
you get, as in primary care, you get like can get 10,000 pages of records.
yeah.
So that's going to take you. So how much time does it take you? Well, it does kind of just depend on a bit on your specialty. Obviously, primary care, something more longitudinal like that, they're going to have and adults are going to have larger volumes of records than some of the like emergency department, depending upon how many times they've been there, may not be as large volume. But the
Mm.
amount of time that you spend doing that initial review has to do with how many pages. So for me, it takes me about 100 pages to do an hour. And so if somebody gives me 1,000 pages, that will take me 10 hours to review. And then, so I get paid, let's say $500 an hour, $5,000 for that. I ask for what's called a retainer. It's basically an upfront payment so that you're insured that you're paid by people you've never worked with before.
Mhm.
That's it. And then you will set up a phone call or a Zoom call to share your findings with the attorney. Now, here's like an important tip. This is something we go over in the course, but do not put it in writing. Like, you don't know about this as doctors. We learn you put everything in writing. But in the legal world, these things can be discoverable. So you don't want to put your opinion in writing. I've seen
Discoverable means like
means that
opposing attorney could get a hold of that and
and then it hurts the
yeah.
attorney's case. So I've actually had attorneys call me irate. I can't believe that Dr. So and so wrote a report and we didn't ask her to. Or I
Mm.
can't believe that she, because that took time. Or I can't believe that she sent this long email with her findings in it. Or he, we'll say he. Um, it was the same person, so that's just one person. Um, and it's like, yeah, that's that I can see how that mistake happened um, from both sides, but don't make that mistake. And so
And like,
then what were you gonna say?
well, I was just gonna say, you're not gonna walk us through like every step of how to do it, but generally
Definitely.
speaking, you get the call, you agree to work together, you agree on your fee schedule, then usually there's some kind of records you review, and then you talk to them.
You talk to them, you may write a report, and generally, like, that's it. Most cases do not go to deposition or trial. Only like 5% to 10% of cases go to deposition or trial. And I
And
will say,
deposition is
deposition is when the attorney on the other side is going to ask you a bunch of questions, and it's recorded, and there's like a court reporter there, and they're asking all these different questions, and it's usually like you're answering questions from your report
Okay.
for like a couple of hours. So it's either done at a place of your choosing, or now more and more commonly these days it's done via Zoom, or trial. Obviously, is trial.
Mhm.
So I will just say that it's very unlikely that the case will go to deposition or trial if you do enough case, because I get this question a lot, like, hey, I'd like to do expert work, but I don't want to have to testify. And I always say, well, why? Like, what's the issue? Because if you're really truly phobic, of speaking publicly, then this is not the right field for you. But if it's just that you're nervous about it, okay, number one, most cases don't go there. Number two, if they do, it's not going to be for like another year. So you have plenty of time to prepare. And then number three, like, just like when that first day of medical school, like, you can't imagine what it would be like to see patients independently on your own. And now it's like no big deal. It's exactly the same thing being deposed and testifying at trial. It's something that you can learn with practice.
Cool.
Yeah. So that is kind of the gist of what I want to say. Basically, I do just want to make a couple more simple things that I see doctors sometimes stumble over when they don't know much about expert work, that I think are important. And another common misconception is this, like, criminal versus civil cases. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, because like we think of, like, and I don't know, one of those, The Good Wife, with like all of the brown wood and the judge, and again, you're barely ever in the court. If you do enough cases, you will be. But criminal is different because it's the prosecution, which is the state, versus the defense. Civil cases, which is what medical malpractice cases, personal injury cases, divorce, like all the other kinds of cases. The reason why I'm saying it's important, it's plaintiff versus defense, and they are both keywords. And so you don't want to say prosecution if you mean plaintiff, because it makes you sound uninformed. The other thing between the two that I think is important to understand is we definitely learn in this country that for criminal cases, the standard of proof is, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. But in civil cases, the burden of proof is more likely than not, or more than 50% likely. So it's a much lower burden. And so that is why it's easier to win a civil case than it is to win a criminal case. And the other thing about that is that the punishment is different in each. In a criminal case, you could get jail time, you could get parole, etc. In a civil case, the consequence is that you would pay money to the defendant. So that's
Can
how
you
things are
just
different.
give a very, very, not even from a real case, but when you say, can you give an example of what you mean by the burden of proof is just more likely than not? So it'd be a case where like someone's like,
So, okay,
this
so like
doctor
OJ,
harmed.
let's
Okay.
talk about OJ.
Okay.
So
That's
I mean,
criminal.
no, it's both. So
Oh,
this is going to age me. So for the young people, you may not remember this, but there was the OJ trial.
well,
There's a
I was
huge
thinking
criminal
more for a
trial.
medical, like
Oh,
put
like,
it in
okay,
medical. Yeah.
okay, but just what I will say is that, so OJ won his criminal case because the burden was beyond a reasonable doubt, but then he was tried civilly by the family and he lost that one.
So it's like they couldn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt
Reasonable doubt,
they did
but
the
they
things
could,
accused of, but
right,
they
they
more
could,
likely than not
then not.
probably did.
Right. It's like if the scale were, 10.2 and, 10, like
But
that
for a
would be,
medical case,
yes.
right? Like just put that, we don't understand what that means. So, I think what you're saying is like, you don't have to prove that the OBGYN absolutely was impossible, that it could have happened, that the 1 minute it took them to do blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't have to be so certain, but you have
Your
to say
opinion is based on more likely than
more
not.
likely than not.
And
Yeah.
so it just has to be like, you're, you know it because you know it. That's
Yeah.
what it is. So more likely than not. So, and let's drill down on that a little bit more. So let's talk about standard of care. And
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is very technical,
No, I think it's
but I
important.
do think it is important. So standard of care is a legal definition, and it depends in the states. It can be a little bit different, but in general, what it means is what somebody would do in a similar or same circumstance as the defendant, more likely than or not. And so, I'm reviewing a case for a defendant right now, and the plaintiff, the expert, is incredibly well credentialed. Like, I would love for her to be my primary care doctor, like based on her credentials. But when I read her report, because I didn't understand, I can't give the details, but I will just say, I don't understand how this is in suit. Because for me, it just seems so clearly that there is no, it is not more likely than not that the defendant made a mistake. It's just like what the defendant did is something that is done every day
Mm,
by, more than 50% of doctors across America. So when I was reading her report, I was curious. And I think what happened is she figured, oh, I'm smart, I can figure it out. And she wrote it like an M&M. She
mm,
wrote like, this is what the guidelines show, this
mm.
is what you're supposed to
They did
do.
not follow the guidelines. Yeah, so
But
I'm just
that's
thinking it's
not what
like,
medical malpractice is.
right.
Medical malpractice is what would somebody else do, more likely than not, in a similar or same circumstance as the defendant. And
Mhm.
so, unfortunately for this doctor, who I think is probably a great doctor, but if it doesn't get, you know, settled before, not sorry, dropped before then, is that when they depose her, they're going to ask her that question.
Mm,
And there's going to be no way that she's going to either have to lie, which would be terrible because
mhm.
that would look
Can
really
I just
bad.
put it into like layperson
Yeah.
words? Tell me if
Yeah.
this is right.
Please.
What I think you're saying is like, let's just say someone has a cold and the doctor gives them antibiotics and they anaphylax and they die. And so then the lawsuit is it's not the standard of care to give antibiotics for a viral URI, which is totally true. It's not the standard of care, but it's not gross malpractice, because if you go to 10 places for urgent care with a cold, you're still likely to get prescribed antibiotics in some of those places, and it's not considered malpractice. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now that makes some sense to me. Yeah, so you could see how you get confused if we were looking at this like, she should have had that mammogram, but like, yes, in a perfect world, but in real life, it's like, what happens in real life? Is
Correct.
this even beyond what you could consider acceptable in real life? Maybe
Correct.
not perfect, but not.
And so I think, and the other thing is, I will say, like, for some of the procedural docs there, attorneys, especially brand new ones, who are trying to make a name for themselves, they get, I think, confused, or they get excited when a plaintiff's family like calls them, a potential plaintiff's family, because they've had a complication from a procedure. And they're like, oh my gosh, there was a perforation during the colonoscopy. But obviously, we know that, complications happen. Now,
Mhm,
you can't say that there definitely was no malpractice, because things could have happened. So what could have happened? Well, was that colonoscopy indicated? Was there anything in the records that shows that it was done improperly, or that something
mhm,
was done wrong?
mhm.
Was the complication diagnosed, recognized
Delayed or on time, yeah.
on time? Was it treated appropriately? But if all of those things are met, you just say, I'm sorry, unfortunate, but this is a known complication, and that's
Yeah.
how you deal with
Oh,
that.
it's so interesting, Amy. I'm just noticing it's 8:40, so I
Okay.
want to be mindful of our
Oh,
time.
yeah. So so what were you going to say?
Well, I was gonna say, do you think it would be important to really quickly mention again, just like who should not do this work?
Okay.
Someone who has a phobia and would never want to testify sounds like maybe not ideal for them.
Yeah.
Any other like things that
You need to still be practicing
have to be
medicine.
practicing? Hmm.
Yeah, because in order to do the bigger cases, particularly medical malpractices, you need to
Hmm.
be practicing. Otherwise, you can be usually, I would say, like 5 years of experience is like the golden number, but I've had some attorneys want people still in fellowship, so it's very variable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Great. So, um, I think we've like gone through a lot of things. I didn't get to talk about some of the other cases that I've seen besides med mal cases. So I'll just talk very briefly about a couple of things just to because I did mention that there are some cases. So there could be like an employment case where somebody had something done to them by a boss and they have like maybe a medical condition that needs to be explained whether accommodations were appropriate or not. So that would be something where a doctor could be involved. Personal injury case would be if somebody was, hit by a car, fell down
Or
on
you
a
told me
wet
like
floor,
someone got bit by a dog and then it was like, are those
dog
injuries?
bite.
Yeah.
Totally. Yep, those are very common. So all of those things.
Okay.
So yeah. So I can
Yeah. Tell us what you do in your work to help doctors learn how to do this.
okay. So I'm gonna share my screen if I'm allowed. I'm
Oh,
not allowed. Unless you want to just share,
nope. I
but
will just
okay.
make you, I just have to find you. Okay. You're the host.
Okay. Okay. So, um, my course is called Basics for Becoming a Medical Expert. It is, oh, shuckers. Okay. It is 3 hours, less than 3 hours of video content. So it's 15 video modules. They're each about 10 minutes each. So you just listen to like one video a day for 2 weeks. You're done. Like that's it. Um, there's tons of templates, handouts, um, Excel sheets, everything that I have to make you a good expert, I give you. So
Can you
I
talk about just really quick
yeah,
modules again, right? Like
yeah,
they're just you narrating, just like you're doing
yes,
to us now, like nothing
yes.
scary, very calmly, very clearly. I mean,
Very
I think
clear,
yeah,
very concise. I don't believe in repeating myself a lot. They're just what you need to know so that you will know how to handle, number one, all of the legal parts of the case, all of the business parts of like how to interact with the attorney, and then how to do the advertising so you can get cases.
got it.
So that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I will say these things, the templates, there is everything in there that I've ever made that will make you a successful expert. So it's the actual Excel sheet that I use to keep track of all of my cases. It's the actual language that I send to attorneys in emails when I haven't gotten paid after a month. It's like still polite, but a little bit more stern. Send me a bill the next month.
Mm.
So anything like that, I give it to you. Um, Everything like that.
And like language, like here's my
Language.
schedule, like here's an example
Here's
of a
my fee schedule.
schedule.
Here's a outline of a report. So
Mm,
like the Word document so that you
yeah,
have it yourself. Yeah.
cool.
Um, okay. Mentorship. So in general for this course, you get these live group calls. They're the first Friday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you can't meet that, we record them. You can put your questions in ahead of time and we record the session for you. But we have a special deal for you guys because I wanted to take good care of Karen's people. So we'll talk about that in a second. Once you've completed the course, I introduce you to this New York consulting firm that works with over 200 law firms. So you will be on their panel of experts. And then my company, High Rock Experts, you would be my preferred expert in your specialty. So, Karen would be my preferred
Life
PD.
coach
I
expert.
am, yeah, she would be my preferred life coach. Exactly. Um, so the special offer for you guys, for Karen's people, is if you sign up by the end of tonight, I will give you number one, introductory one-on-one call with me for 15 minutes to like talk about whatever you want, which will probably be anything you want to do before we get started with the course. And then that first time that you have touch with an attorney, that you're about to like have a phone call with them later that day or the next day or whatever, you can send me 3 emails back and forth and I will write you back and we'll come up with a good game plan for that first attorney phone call so that we ensure your success. And then you also will get a 30-minute one-on-one time to call with me one-on-one to use anytime with me. So all of these need to be done within the first year. So that's if you sign up by tonight. So the pricing for this course is usually $25.95 for everything. And I forgot to say that there is the opportunity to get some CME credits as well, 15 CME credits or more based on the amount of reflection that you're doing. But if you use the coupon Karen L, you'll get 10% off before August 11th. Can you see the bottom of that? Here, I'm just going to hide that like weird thing.
Yeah, and I was going to put that link in the and I'm going to respond to the most recent question. So I'm just going to answer. You'll have to tell me if you can see this. We're like playing around because there's no chat, but I just put, if you look under, hopefully your screen will show that there's one question that we've answered on there, and that has a clickable link that will take you to the checkout page for Amy's program.
So anonymous member just asked if CME is available. So yes, and I can definitely send you more information on that. It's via CME-FI, and it has to do with the amount of reflection that you're doing. So it's available via their website, and my course gives you a link to reflect.
But basically what I'm understanding is that roughly 5 hours of doing expert witness work will pay for the cost of the program. And you said the modules, it's 150 minutes. So it's under 3 hours of actual like learning. And so could you do it all in one sitting? Like, are you saying most people,
Yes.
how long does
Yes,
it take
you
most
could do it all
people?
within one sitting, but I don't recommend that people do that because it is dense. If you've never done this stuff before, you're like talking about some very complex legal terms. I
Mhm.
do recommend doing just one video a day.
Okay. And
And
how, uh-huh.
sorry, no, what were you going to say?
How many people tend to come to the calls? Like, is it like a max
It's
house of
very,
500
very,
people? Okay.
no, it's like I might have, I'm playing with thinking of coming up with a better time because obviously for a busy clinician, 11 a.m. is not a great time Eastern. So I may be doing evenings, but
But even so, like, how many people tend to be there? I just meant if
it's variable. Like
I
it can
want
be
individual
anywhere
attention from you.
between, yeah, it's usually less than, it's like 5 people. It's not
Okay.
that many people. Yeah, I don't know why people don't use it more, utilize it more because I
I know
send
why,
people
because you
emails.
already teach them how to do
Right.
it.
No,
They
it's
don't
true.
need you.
It's true, but I do recommend that you come because I like meet the people that are there, and those are the people that I develop the relationships for.
Yeah.
So with, and so, I do recommend that you come.
All right, let's dive in because some of the
Yes.
questions are just about the field in general. And then I'm sure as we get further through, some are about your actual course. So we can go over the specifics again because I know we kind of blew through it quickly. We're going to go to town. So
Yes.
do you want me to read you the question or do you want to read it yourself?
Okay, I can see some of them, but it looks like we've answered some of them. So,
All
but
right, so
I'll
I
just
will,
repeat them. So the first one, it looks like it's from Lorna.
yeah.
How does one get into this field? What percentage of cases wind up going to trial and having to testify in a courtroom? So it's 5 to 10% of medical malpractices go to deposition or trial. So again, small. And how do you get into it? Well, anybody can get into it. But the best way is really to sign up for my course because I will give you a market. So I'll give you a marketing plan. You can choose the amount of time that you want to spend and the amount of money you want to spend to like create a marketing plan. But if you follow those steps, you will get cases.
And
All
a
right.
lot of times it's like being connected to attorneys, right? Which is
Yes.
part of what you also do.
Yes. I will say the other thing that a preferred high rock expert status gets, which is an under like is that I will tag you. So if I'm on Facebook a lot, if I see a post where somebody is looking for an expert, I don't care if it's so not my company, just somebody else. I will tag my students in those posts because I want you guys to be successful. So, but I won't tag people that haven't taken the course.
Can I just add one question? I know it's out of
Yeah,
order, but it feels like it belongs here. Someone
yeah.
said, do physicians who end up serving as witnesses through High Rock, do they pay a fee or does the
Oh,
law pay the
no,
fee?
no, good question. Totally free for physicians. Um, and there are other companies that do it differently. And there's a module about how to decide which companies you want to work with. I will just say, big caveat, there's a lot of like snake oil salesmen in this world. And so you do want to be careful who you work with. But no, my company is totally free for you guys.
But why do
I
people like
charge the
your experts, Amy? Why do people come to you?
to me
Yeah.
because they know that I spend time. So the attorney pays me a fee and they know that I'm going to find, like, I talk to them about their case. They tell me what they're looking for in that case. I understand like the gist of what they're looking for, and then I find the experts that match what they're looking for. So
Hmm.
it works for both parties.
Yeah. And they
Yeah.
know you're not going to give them garbage.
Right.
It's like
And the
you're going to be like,
mistake that I made after that person one time that I sent that made that mistake where the attorney was all irritated and
right.
they were like, why did they send me this email? I decided after that that I wasn't going to match people who don't have any training
Hmm.
because because I just can't like speak I just can't speak to how good work you're going to do if you're not trained. So that's why I prefer to recommend people who've taken my course.
Okay.
Okay, can the hospital be sued without suing the physicians? Um, so this is like it depends. I will say a lot of states have um it's a complicated question. So a
Yeah, and
lot
also
of
you're not a lawyer. So, like,
yeah,
I understand the question, but I also think it might be a little outside the scope.
yeah, I
Like,
mean,
a
I
lot of
could
times some
answer this,
hospitals.
but yeah,
Yeah.
if we have time for this, let's come back. So
Okay.
can we sign up to join your database? How do you find lawyers or get hired to do this? So yes, you can sign up to be in my database. But again, if you've never done this before, um, I may not match you. And so you can find my database at my website, highrockexperts.com. It's experts with a S. Um, is there any general accepted years of experience expected? So generally, I would say 5 years is kind of an expectation, but that varies. If they're suing like a brand new doctor, it doesn't matter as much. If they're suing, a grandfather, they may actually want somebody who's more younger to just show what a difference there is. So it very, very variable, depends on the case. Um, in terms of like personal injury cases and things like that, it doesn't matter as much. After board certification, is there any amount of time practicing that is considered too short? Again, I would say 5 years is a good number, but I've definitely had some experts get started before they start to develop these relationships with attorneys, and then they just go from there. As a new attending, I get told how young I look all the time. Is this a problem for attorneys and juries? Um, I don't know. Like, I think it would depend. Like if you really truly look like, like you're 12, like really truly like you're 12, that could potentially be a problem. I
I know
think
this
that
person, and I'm like, "Are we gonna let those sexist, ageist, misogynist a-holes keep you from being an expert and doing this work?" Like, no, we're not. Like, they
I will just say that like a lot of that, this like you look like you're so young. I think that that's a way of patients controlling us. Like I
Mm.
think that that's their way of like saying
It's a
something to like,
microaggression.
yeah.
Is that one
So
of your templates, Amy? If the lawyer says that during the deposition, do you have a script to be like, you know,
actually, I went to 4 years now school. It's so those are things that you can practice with
"What does
your
that have
attorney.
to do with my medical knowledge? Look at my degrees." Boom,
Totally.
boom, boom.
Totally, totally. So
Right.
it doesn't matter. There may be certain attorneys that would just choose somebody else, but it doesn't matter. The attorneys that want to work with you are going to find
Mm.
you. What if the only current clinical work I'm doing is osteopathic manipulation 2.5 days per week? Can I still do this work? Or
But
is
I'm
my current
trained in
work
family
too
medicine
niche?
or primary care.
Um, I would recommend, so, all right, if you're talking about medical malpractice work, then you should be doing something that you've been doing recently. So probably, so there's probably like a year or two that you would be able to do other stuff, but you would be able to do medical malpractice for osteopathic manipulation, and that's not niche. Like I'm sure that there's cases for that. So that would be your niche. And actually, I have found that people who are more niched down are more successful than people who are more like, for example, when I said, of like when I first started, I made the mistake of being like, oh, I'm a primary care doctor. Come, I can do so many cases, and lawyers were not finding me
Mm,
until I like really was like, okay, well, what am I known for? And I
mm.
realized what my niche was opioid pain policies and primary care practices. And then people started finding me from all over the country. So having a niche is actually can be very beneficial. So that's the answer to that. The other thing is that there's other things that you can do in medical expert work. I didn't talk about this much, but anonymous member, you could send me an email if you want, if you would be interested in doing an independent medical exam. That would be if somebody was injured, like in an accident, they need people on both sides to evaluate the person that was harmed and give an impairment rating that should be objective and the same on both sides. So that could be something that you could do. There's no doctor-patient relationship, and that's just like another way to make money in this world. It's not
Okay,
something that I do a ton of. Okay,
email her. Let's go.
email me. I'm still not done with my part 2 boards. Would that be
Email
okay?
me and I will email you, Amy. Or
Yeah,
actually, when I send out the recordings, if it's okay with you, Amy, I'll put your email address
yeah,
in
that's
there.
great.
Okay.
You need to be board certified,
All right.
so I would wait. Um, you can tee this up and learn how to do it, but you're gonna need to be. How do you advertise? What do you recommend? Would you recommend a website? And if so, do you have an example? So I do not really in general recommend a website. I think it's a waste of money because I think that websites can actually hurt you if they're not done really well. I've had attorneys more times than not say, oh, actually, I decided not to work with that expert that you recommended because I didn't like something that they saw on the website, and was something that I felt like was so silly. Like either they didn't like the photo, they didn't like an article that was posted, or they didn't think it was professional enough. We have hospital websites that have our bio on there and our photo on there. That's fine. what I would recommend is to use LinkedIn, because that's where attorneys are. And just make sure that on LinkedIn, you create your own Gmail address for expert work, and that you put it on there in the about section and say, you know, my name is Lauren Feld, MD, expert witness, and put it there. And then attorneys will contact you. So that's what I would recommend.
All right. Do
I'm
you
looking
need
at Dr.
malpractice
Fogelman's.
insurance?
I'm sorry,
Did
what?
that. We did that one already. I'm just gonna like power us through because we're gonna run over a little bit. Is that okay with you, Amy?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is my fault. We only have three more.
No,
Oh,
we have
we
a
have
lot more.
more?
Some
Oh, okay.
so do we
Well, why
need
don't you ask
additional
me the ones you think
yeah,
are
do
good?
we need
Okay.
additional malpractice insurance to cover the work if we know our company's malpractice does not cover anything outside of our main clinical position?
So you don't need malpractice insurance. There's no doctor-patient relationship. This is not malpractice insurance. Doctors, we think
Perfect.
that way. It's
Perfect.
errors and omissions insurance. And that's about $1,000 or less a year. If you want to do it, it's very low risk, but some people do get errors and omissions, and I probably recommend doing that if you're doing it a lot. I didn't do it for my first few cases.
Someone's asking because I realized we put the link to the checkout page, but if people want to go back and look at the program a little more, can you just share your website information again? Is it
Yes,
just
it's
highrockexperts.com?
highrockexperts.com.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So if you are a specialist, are you only going to be able to do cases in that specialty usually?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
What if you get a case and you don't know how to answer it?
You can actually read the literature and stuff to figure it out.
You just look up the answer. It's not
Yeah.
usually going to be like, what is the hidden diagnosis? It's going to be like, does this?
It's an open book test. So before you're reviewing the records, you can review the
Has it ever happened to you, Amy, where you've gotten a case where you're like, I have no idea?
not that I had no idea, but sometimes I just want to be sure, especially
Yeah.
before I put something in writing.
Yeah.
So like I had a case where I just wanted to make sure that stress can cause shingles, and I thought it could, but I just wanted to be sure that was what the literature
Yeah.
showed, and it
Yeah.
did. So
Okay.
that helped me
Do
write
you
it.
need to disclose this work to your employers?
You should, oh, that's another thing. Yes, you should ask your employers, do you need to disclose it? That's a question. I don't know, but you should make sure that your employer allows it.
Okay. Um,
I wouldn't you don't need to go sharing everything that you're doing. It has nothing to do with the work you're doing for them, but certain places like, for example, Kaiser does not allow their physicians to do this work.
okay. Are forensic, physical, or psychological evaluations part of this work, or is that something else? I do these for some refugee patients, and I'm wondering if I could do it for another demographic to make money.
Um, I don't know much about forensic, so that was what I was talking about with the IMEs. So
Mm,
yeah, you can do IMEs. That's another, like, it's related.
mhm,
It's not what my course is about. It's not what my
mhm.
specialty is about, but it definitely is a related field. And yes, you can do that. And for certain specialties, it makes sense.
Okay. Someone's asking if CME is available, and yes, it is.
Yes.
Someone is asking, can you explain retainer versus actual hour-to-hour fee schedule? And you already explained that the retainer is just they pay upfront for a certain number of hours so that you don't wind up doing all the work and then being like, okay, pay me. And then they're like, just kidding, we're taking all your work and we're not
You
paying you.
always want to make sure, especially when you're working with a plaintiff attorney, or any attorney that you've never worked with before, that you get paid when you still have leverage. So
Yeah.
that's before you review the records, before
Mm.
you give them the report, before you go to the deposition, before the trial. Because what are you supposed to do when everything's over and they're like, I don't care, I don't need you anymore. And then, you're left with a bill.
Someone
All
is
right.
saying, I think what someone is saying is if someone signs up with you to be in your database, but someone externally contacts them to be an expert witness, are they required to pay you any amount?
No,
Okay.
no. And you don't pay me anything anyway. It's either being in my database. I want you to be successful. Like, go be go fly. I want be in as many databases as you can find, but just be careful. There are some real snakes out there that
Yeah.
probably would make you sign like a waiver. That's a good question to ask, but no, I
Yeah.
don't have that.
Someone's asking, do I need to set up an LLC? Which, I mean, yeah,
I
but that has
talk
to be
about that. I talk about
okay.
that a bit in the course. So
Okay.
it's depends on state and but you don't need to. You can use your you can just create an EIN through the IRS as just an individual and do the work. So it's not necessary, but it's a good idea. Do you not know about this? That you can do an EIN? Is that why you're doing it?
Me, my face?
Oh
No, I was
yeah.
just reading other things.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
My nose
Okay.
is like,
Oh,
"Hey."
okay.
Nope. I'm just
But
like, "Woo."
but it can be a good idea to do it for tax write-off purposes.
Okay. Someone else is asking again about the CME. And I just think if you want to go to it's CMEFI, right?
CME-FI, and
You just have
as
to read
long
what
as
they
you,
say.
yeah, if you, it's, they used to, so I used to offer CME through them, and I used to be able to say that I give 15 CME credits. And then they changed the way that they do it, and they're only able to allow you to give as many credits as you can reflect for. So I don't quite know what that means. But as long as you reflect and you show them that you're reflecting for enough to get the CME, then you will get as many CME credits as you possibly can with the course. So yeah.
Okay. Someone's asking if palliative medicine physicians can do this work. Is that a specialty?
Yeah, but I think there's fewer cases because people
Mhm.
don't tend to
Right.
sue in those instances.
Right.
But I would imagine that perhaps there could be in probate cases, that would probably be a time and that would be
Okay.
something.
Someone in the Midwest wants to know if coastal attorneys will take them seriously.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Someone is asking again what the offer is to sign up tonight.
If you sign up tonight, and you make sure you use the Karen L code, so you get 10% off the, the course. So
So
that's
you
good.
go to this link. This is the checkout page, and then it asks you for a promotion code, and then you put in Karen L.
Karen L.
Yeah.
If you sign up by tonight, then you get 15-minute kickoff call with me. You get a 30-minute call anytime with me. So that's one-on-one time. So my fee is anywhere between, depends, $650 and $750 per hour. And so you get that for free. And you also will get the first time that you have that interface with the attorney, I will go back and forth with you 3 times on email to set up that call to get you excited and ready for your call.
And otherwise, if you sign up before August 10th, you can still use that code to get 10% off.
You just don't get all those extra
All the extra
one-on-ones
Amy
with me. Yeah,
time.
exactly.
um, how do we know if our specialty is too narrow?
No such
It,
thing. But
okay.
there's no such thing. I think, again, narrower the better, because if your specialty is very small, there's just not going to be much competition.
Okay. Someone's asking, is there an expert role for someone who has primarily worked as faculty in a residency program?
Absolutely. Um, a lot of times the attorney may want an academic physician because they think that that carries a bit of gravitas. Sometimes an attorney will want a community physician for a different reason, but I definitely get people that are very, very interested in people being on faculty. So yes.
Okay. Someone's asking if the recording will be available, and it absolutely will. If you signed up for this, I will probably email this to my entire email list. So if you're someone who gets weekly emails from me, you will get the recording. But it also, if you signed up on the page to get the Zoom link to be here tonight, you will get a copy of the replay too. So I guess you're automatically on my email list from having done it that way. If somehow you joined outside of giving us your email address, then email me with your email address so I can make sure you get the email, the replay. Is the name of expert review confidential or available to the court and the other side? Is there any safety issues related to that?
So it's available. This is um, publicly available information. I think that this is much lower safety issue than like patient care. That's my opinion. Again, you are saying things that are not controversial. You're saying things that are, you know, more than 50% likely. They're grounded in the truth. And it would not make it to court if you didn't agree with the opinion. If you don't agree with the opinion, you would tell the attorney during that initial phone call, and they would not ask you to continue to be involved in the case.
Okay. Does it matter if I was named in a case last year that likely won't proceed? I've
Mm,
never been
it's a
in a
good
suit.
question. And being named in a medical malpractice case, or a few of them is not going to harm you in being able to be involved in this work. In fact, sometimes that is why people want to become medical experts, because they had that experience and it gets them involved. However, and I should have said this up front, if you have a pattern of malpractice, like a lot of cases, more than the average of your specialty, or if you've been disciplined by, your hospital or by the board, then it probably would not be a good idea for you to do this work.
Don't doctors who do independent medical exams have a bad reputation?
No.
I don't know. Something about ethics. I don't know what those are. So I'll
No,
just,
you don't have a doctor-patient relationship, and you're just giving an exam saying what the impairment rating is. So,
okay.
no, I don't
Someone's
know.
asking what the average rate of pay is for someone in a medical specialty without specifying. So is it fair to say like all comers is 500 an hour and then a specialty is like 6 to 900, or is it
I think
different?
it varies what the
Yeah.
specialties are. I would say like medical specialties are probably up to 700. When you start getting into the surgical subspecialties, those can be higher. Like neurosurgery, I've seen like 1,200 an hour. So it is variable.
Okay. Is this relevant to Canadians?
Probably, but I don't know anything, but my course is not, because I don't know anything about the Canadian, the
Could you
Canada.
be, if you're like could you be a witness in an American case if you
You
live in Canada?
probably could, but generally attorneys want to hire people that are in the region where they are, because unless you're the world's expert on something,
Mhm.
because why do they have to go all the way to Canada when they have doctors all around here?
Okay.
It gives the impression that the attorney had to go just hunting for someone to say what they wanted them to say.
Right, right, right. And then again, someone is just saying, I just finished residency, so is this probably not the right time? Like, is there any benefit
Yeah, I would say
started early?
probably not, although it's not a bad idea to just get involved if this is something that is interesting you, and learn about it. But yeah, you can wait. I would wait, and also you'll probably have more time, as I don't know. It depends on how much extra time you have. It's never a bad time to start, but if you definitely want cases, I would say, 5 years is the magic number.
Okay. I think you're just gonna have to give a general answer to this, and then I think I'm gonna try to wrap up like in the next 2
Yeah,
minutes, if that's okay, because I think we
yeah.
got to the end. One person is just asking generally, like, what kinds of questions are you asked during the deposition or the trial?
So, I mean, it can be anything about the case. So things about your opinion and how you came to it, and things like that. But they can ask you very personal questions like, doctor, tell me, I think that how many cases have you uh, testified in before, um, to sort of try to make you seem like you're a professional expert, or not. And the number one thing, and again, you're gonna learn how to do this, but is you just be honest. If the attorney is like trying to pick on you and be like a real jerk, you're not gonna like out jerk them. So you just answer the questions honestly, and and you may occasionally like have to say like, yes, I do advertise because like otherwise I wouldn't get any cases. Like honestly, like that, so does the judge like the attorneys advertise, and like the law firms advertise, and like everybody in this room advertises. So like
Mhm.
what are we talking about here? But
Mhm.
like that's fine.
Mhm.
But the important thing is to say like I'm unbiased, and I'm just, this is my opinion. So those are the kinds of questions, but you practice.
And then someone's asking, is it state specific, which I don't think,
Yeah, I mean, it is, meaning that states have their own rules. And that's part of what the course teaches you.
but it's not like the witness has to be living in the
Oh,
state for the case.
you just need to be licensed somewhere. You don't need to have like a license in that state in order to do that, or live in the state in order to do the work.
Okay. All right. It's just gonna nag at me if we don't try to stab at that hospital question, but can I tell
What
you my
hospital? Oh,
response
I
and
can
then you
answer
tell
it.
me. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the hospital question, like, why don't, I think what this person was like, why don't, can attorneys sue hospitals? And I will just tell you, so in Massachusetts, there's a rule that no nonprofits can be sued for more than $100,000. And because of that cap of nonprofits, um, the way that the medical malpractice attorneys get around it is that they have to name individuals. And so they name the doctors.
As many
So
as they can. So if you were ever in a case
not
where
necess not not not
a
not
lot of times
necessarily.
you're like, I was the resident and I literally signed the discharge summary, never saw the patient, never did anything else.
It depends on the attorney. It honestly does.
Yeah, but a lot of
Mhm.
times, because I think we think like, "Oh my god, I was named. I must have done
Right.
something terrible." If you
Right.
had
A lot of
no
times they put
involvement in the
everybody
case.
in, and then they start
Yeah, because
peeling them
each
back.
doctor comes with their own malpractice policy, and a lot of times they're trying to get all that money. Not everybody, but I think a lot of us, we just think like, if I was named, I must be culpable somehow, and then we struggle with like, "But I never even did anything. Why was I named? Like, who's out to get me? Who knows something that I don't know?" Right? And now we're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, it makes sense." They just cast a wide net in the beginning sometimes, and then they drop people.
And I just want to also just point out, like, as we're finishing up, it's kind of unfortunate that we could be named as a resident, like the day that we finish medical school, and yet we don't learn a lick about any of this
Mhm.
when we're in medical school or in residency training. So it's kind of very strange. But
Well, actually, I'm just gonna
is
step on a
this
soapbox
changing?
for 30 seconds. No, but all I was gonna say is I realized like, oh, it's probably worth mentioning just because we have an audience that's interested and maybe hasn't coached with me and maybe doesn't know a lot about the law from you, that most doctors who are sued for medical malpractice do not go to trial. And the overwhelming majority of cases of malpractice uh, find for the defendant. Did I say it right?
Yes,
Do
they
not.
do. They do.
So
They fine for the doctor. It is incredibly hard to
it
win
is
a malpractice case.
incredibly hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think that that is just like urban legend. We kind of come out of training thinking, "Oh, bad doctors get sued, so I got sued, so I must be a bad doctor." No, most doctors will get sued at some point in their life because bad outcomes drive lawsuits, and bad outcomes are gonna happen because people die, because life is not, like, totally predictable. So, I know that's, like, a total other topic, but for some people, even the idea of a malpractice case feels so scary because the only time we've ever been exposed to it is like the doctors on TV who've like carved their initials into someone, and we don't realize that good doctors are sued every day and by and large overwhelmingly settled or dropped and not gone to trial and not super scary. So if you're someone in a suit who's dealing with any kind of stress or shame or fear, and you'd like to be connected to some other resources, like this is something I do in my other coaching role. Not that I would be there for you, but there's a lot of resources out there, and there is, it's like
There's a community of
there's a
people that can be
community and
helpful.
there's a lot of
Mhm.
support out there, but the system makes you feel alone, makes you think you can't talk to anybody, makes you think you're bad, and so we don't want you to feel like that. So that's just a PSA. All right. So, um I think that's it. I don't think I saw any new one pops in. Oh, someone said I did chart review as a resident without deposition or testimony and a much
Yeah.
lower rate. So,
Yeah. So, oh, yeah, that's a great way to get cases is to drop your rate. But don't do that if you're not a resident, please.
you deserve to be paid for the work you do. All right. Thank you so much,
Thank
Amy.
you so
I
much, Karen.
appreciate
I
you.
appreciate it.
If
It is way
anyone,
past my bedtime, so
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
know,
go
me
get
too.
ready for bed.
Me too. But if anyone didn't catch the link or has a question tonight or is trying to sign up and something wonky happens, you can reply to any of the emails I sent you. We'd love to help you get signed up for Amy's program.
Thanks a lot. It was
All
great talking to you.
right.
All
Good
right.
night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.